Hello and welcome to my channel. I am ZodiacBandit, and today we're going to be recapping episode 36 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. This was a doozy, especially for many longtime fans or fans who have watched the first campaign. So, yeah, let's just get right into it. So they start with walking through the Sun Tree into Whitestone, which was surreal. It's morning in Whitestone because it's obviously a different part of the world than Jushar. So not the midday of, I think it was either midday or night from the last episode in Jushar. Now we're in the morning of Whitestone, which time zones, man. Always got to mess people up. People are staring at them, and mostly Keyleth. Keyleth welcomes the party to Whitestone. None of them have been there before except for Chetney, who went there on spring break ages ago. They look at the tree and realize that it's the tree that Laudna was hanging from, which is fucked up. Guards move closer to the party until they see Keyleth is there, and they slow down and kind of, meet with them and ask if she wants an escort to the castle. She doesn't, and she starts taking the Bell's Hells towards the castle. Chetney asks if he can have some of the wood from the Sun Tree, but Keyleth says you should ask the Chamber about that first. It's kind of an important tree. Orym walks where Derek would have walked behind Keyleth. As they walk, a handful of them see that when Keyleth walks, she leaves behind some foliage growth, which is very interesting to me. Keyleth asks the party what they do / who they are as they walk. Chetney says he is a master craftsman. Fern says that she is the fey creature of the group and a klepto. Well, she didn't say that, but I felt like throwing that in. FCG is a former assassin robot from the past, which is the best way to put it. FCG asked if she is religious. Keyleth says that it's complicated and that she has met a few gods in the past. As they walk toward the castle, they see a brilliantly made clock tower with, intricate cog working and obviously gargoyles on it, which is really cool because that is the thing that Percy said he was going to build at the end of Campaign 1, and this is the first time I think Matt ever described it. So for me, that's really cool. I was very excited to hear about this clock tower because for me, Campaign 1, I freshly finished that, I think about a year ago now. So very interesting for me to see this as it's kind of a recent memory. So the clock tower was on my mind when they went through there. Wasn't necessarily worried about the Sun Tree. I was more worried about this clock tower. So I was very excited when he started talking about it. Orym explains a bit about how the group became a group. Imogen also asks if Keyleth knew Bertrand Bell. She did. And she explains that he's resting in the city if they'd like to go see him after this is all done. Keyleth questions if they can bring Laudna back after the whole Orym family situation. Orym isn't quite sure either. Keyleth turns to Ashen and wants to see Laudna. Imogen asks what happened last time they tried to revive Will. Keyleth says that the assassins used a toxin that sort of locks away divine magic, which is something I'm going to introduce into my games because that is brilliant. Keyleth checks Laudna for the toxin and doesn't feel any within her, so she's probably good, as we all figured, because Fern and Orym both came back. I'm shocked they didn't actually bring that up, because it would have saved them a little bit of time. Imogen explains that Laudna is different, or is a different case when it comes to resurrection. Keyleth is well aware of the different types of ways people can come back from the dead. They are now on the walkway to the castle, and once they get to the big castle courtyard doors, they open, and they see guards with large rifles, better than any of the rifles that they saw in Bassaris. Much more well-crafted and probably way better at functioning. Keyleth steps up and tells the guards what's going on and who the group is. One of the guards says Cassandra isn't in, but the Lord is, and he is in his office. Ashen feels very paranoid. It's almost like a time paradox thing going on here. As they are led into the castle, Orym sees that the party is being followed by something about his size. They get to a closed door and the captain knocks and asks for the Lord, Rolo, and he answers. At this point, Keyleth is backed up away from the group, getting a message from someone, and she tells the party that she has to leave soon, but she'll walk them into the office. Imogen is concerned that Keyleth won't be the one trying to bring back Laudna, but Keyleth says it's not totally within her wheelhouse to bring someone back after this long. She could, but it's not necessarily her best thing, is what she says. The Lord, from the other side of the door, tells them that they can come in. Imogen tries to tell Keyleth everything they've learned about Ruidus, the cage surrounding Ruidus, their enemies in the Feywild, and on the material plane, and about the possibility of Keyleth potentially being a Ruidus-born. Keyleth is taken back by all this and goes over the stuff that she has to deal with on top of that she has to deal with surrounding the solstice, so adding all this stuff is kind of a pain in the ass. Keyleth asks them to write everything down as she wants to look into this stuff. Chetney tells Keyleth that she's got this, Tempest. FCG asks if the Changebringer is a trustworthy god, and Keyleth says she is. The door opens to the office. They see the Lord looking up at a stained glass mural, which is in the sort of vein of the sun tree, with a stone slab in the middle of it, which is holding a leather plague doctor mask, which is freaking awesome. Hold it above where I can always see it. Keyleth tells Percy that whatever they ask for, Zephyra / she will pay for it. Percy says he'll consider it. Orem introduces everyone, and this is where Keyleth leaves. As the door closes, Percy sees a girl standing there. She has red skin and horns. This is Percy's daughter. Gwendolyn, who happens to be a tiefling, which is interesting. And I'm so glad that one of these characters had a tiefling child, because for any of you who don't know, tieflings can just kind of happen. They can happen in a handful of different ways, but they can just kind of happen sometimes. So to me, this happening is interesting. I really enjoyed the inclusion here because she's in the book, the Teldari Reborn campaign guide. So it's really cool that they've kind of brought her specifically in to point out that this kind of stuff can happen. Tieflings just happen sometimes, whether it be you had demon blood at some point in your lineage and it just, kind of goes into overdrive. Maybe as your child was being born, a demon snuck into them or something like that. There's a bunch of different ways for tieflings to become tieflings, and I'm really, really glad they chose to showcase this child specifically. Percy asks what she's doing, and she was just curious and following them. Percy tells her to sit down, read a book, and listen a little bit. Maybe she'll learn something. Orem tells him what this is all about and how their friend died and is from Whitestone. They tell him she was someone he might know of. They explain that Delilah killed her and hung her from the sun tree. As they show him her face, he looks at her in pure silence. Echoes of his past is returning and he's not liking it. We learn that Laudna and Imogen have been traveling for years, which I did not know. I feel like that was not something specified before, because I believe Orem says they were only traveling with Laudna for a little while, but Imogen pipes up and says that she had been traveling with her for a couple of years now, so I want to know how far back that goes. Just something I decided to point out. Percy is sympathetic and says thanks for bringing her home so she can now rest, and the party explain that is not why they brought her back here. They want her to be brought back to life, not to rest. FCG asks if he has divine magic, to which he replies no. He explains that death happens and asks why she needs to be brought back instead of a bunch of other people who could be brought back. Orem says Laudna is a bloom of goodness born from darkness that deserves to be allowed to live. Orm asks Percy to see the good in this. Percy says that if everyone came to him with a dead person and asked for them to be brought back, it would wreck the balance of life. Imogen says she is different. She was chosen. Percy says he shouldn't decide, as he isn't the one that can bring her back, and says it'll be up to the one that can, and asks the guard captain to go get Pike. Percy asks his daughter to run along at this point. Percy asks the party to walk with him toward the courtyard or entranceway to the castle. Chetney asks Percy about the clock tower, and Percy tells him that he made it. And then Chetney replies saying that he is a master craftsman of wood, and asks if he can build something for his daughter. Percy asks where he learned his craft, and Chetney dodges the question by saying here and there, which to me is kind of weird. I feel like he eventually comes around and says Wildmount, but I found it kind of strange that he didn't specify right away. Chetney is a very shifty individual and shows that really strongly here for some reason. FCG shows Percy the clock that Chetney made for them. Percy isn't really sure if Chetney is that good of a master craftsman after seeing it. Percy asks if Chetney works with mechanisms, and Chetney has a meltdown because he does not like metal. Chetney says that he'd like to make some, or take some weight off the shoulders of him and Keyleth. Percy's a little confused by this at this point, and says that Laudna would help with that if they were to bring her back. Percy's daughter at this point pipes up and says that they were talking about weird stuff going on with the moon and certain people from other realms and shit like that. Percy calls them crackpots and says that's good, you need to be a little crazy. Chetney gives his daughter a small rocking horse with a wolf head. Weird thing to just randomly make. At this point, the entrance of the castle bursts open and two half-elves run through arguing about who killed the most stuff when they were hunting. Then Vex walks in and sees the party. This was really exciting for me because Vex is probably one of the, in my opinion, a very interesting figure in the Vox Machina crew. The entirety, she's the one that I'm most interested to learn about now because of her status as a person, but also that she's a half elf, so she's gonna outlive a handful of the people in Vox Machina, but she doesn't have the same sort of lifespan that Keyleth will have. And Matt points this out by saying that she's roughly, she looks visually in her 30s. Compare that to Percy, who looks much older at this point. So, I'm very excited to see her in comparison to Percy. She asks what they're doing here, and they explain a little bit. Vex is a little upset that she missed Keyleth. Orm explains who they are and how they met. Vex tells them who she is. Imogen tells Vex that she sent her a letter about Bertrand Bell at one point, to which, Vex asks Percy why he's so tense. Percy says it's the request that they came to him with. It's got him a little on edge. Vex thanks them for sending Bertrand Bell back to them. They tell her why exactly they're here and about Laudna. Vex leaves to go change out of her hunting gear and apologizes for them meeting her the first time looking the way she does. Orm says you can see the resemblance between Vex and Laudna. That is so beyond fucked to me. That is just brutal to say out loud and to really think about it for a second, because it's true. And obviously Marisha did that on purpose with the whole character design stuff. But for the first time I ever thought about the whole ear thing that she's got going on with the caps on Laudna's ears. That was quite the line from Orm. At this point they wait for Pike. Percy is looking the party up and down one by one. Ashton is perplexed by the way Percy lives, as it is way too rich for his tastes. Percy explains that the castle has been in his family for a while. Imogen asks if he was here when the Briarwoods did their whole situation. He says yes and doesn't say anything beyond this. At this point, Pike arrives, being flanked by guards as they try to keep up with her as she's running toward the entranceway. She introduces herself to everyone and tells her that she is a baker and the manager / owner of the Slayer's Cake. The party explain what they need and who Laudna is, and the whole Suntree connection to her, which is overheard by Vex, as she is now returning after being changed. Vex sees that Laudna is meant to be her and tells Percy that they must help her, as they are the reason she was killed and placed there in the first place, which is very true. Very, very true. Pike says she needs an expensive diamond, and Vex has many of them, so that's fine. Pike starts the ritual. As she reaches out to Laudna, she tells Percy that she feels 2 souls, and then suddenly stops the ritual. She says she can feel Delilah. Percy says there's nothing to be done. He will not stand to let his family live in a world with a Briarwood, so they will not be bringing her back. The party try to convince him once more, but he only says that he'll be okay with it if they can somehow be rid of Delilah, but they can't do anything in his city, and he walks off. Pike says that she might have some books in her house that can tell her how to, separate 2 beings, exorcisms and stuff like that. But Ashton decides to go after Percy. Ashton yells at Percy and says that they've had a tough life with everyone around them dying or getting messed up, and before they met this group, they didn't care. They didn't care much about anything. But this group, including Laudna, changed them. And now they realize that they are a small person from a small town in a much larger world. Percy says that he's sorry but won't help, and that Ashton is a small fish in a big pond, and to go make a wave. Very, very interesting wording from Percy. Ashton sees the group has now left, but can see them running down the path back toward Whitestone. But before they leave, they try to punch a bust. It doesn't break, and they end up hurting their own hand. And across the hallway, they hear a growl, a very menacing growl. When Ashton looks over, they see a massive bear with brown and gray fur, and 2 other bears flanking him. This is the legendary Trinket, and what I guess are supposed to be his kids, I would imagine. Ashton has a moment with them and tells them to take a shit somewhere inappropriate to think of them while they do it, before they go after the others. Ashton catches up with them, no problem, as they are following a gnome who can only run so fast. Pike and Vex take the party to Pike's place. Pike tells them to wait downstairs while she goes upstairs to find her books. While they wait, Vex apologizes about Percy, saying he's complicated and the whole situation surrounding them is very important to him. The party understands. After a while, Pike runs down the stairs with some books under her arms and says that when you die, your soul is taken towards whatever realm your god has rule over or power in. But Laudna didn't go to one of these sort of places and is being blocked by Delilah. But this book, it has a ritual in it that can send the party to the place where Laudna's soul is, but only spiritually. And they can try to separate the 2 of them while there. The spell takes an hour to cast and will stay up as long as need be, realistically. While wherever the party are, they will have a tether connected to them. If they die while in this form or in this place, they will simply come back to their bodies. But if the tether is severed, they're dead. They're fucked. She looks to Vex and says it'll cost a lot, but Vex isn't really worried about that, as for obvious reasons, and asks for whatever she needs and begins to run back toward the castle. But the party says that they have some, green dust that could potentially aid in this, to which Vex says to hold on to, as Percy will be interested in that. FCG is worried that they can't go as they don't have a soul, but the party disagrees, and Pike says she can check. At this point, FCG says, "How can you check you're a baker?" To which she then casts a spell on FCG, An FCG sees Pike in a void as a astral glow, or an astral form, with the symbol of Saren Ray on her chest. Pike can see FCG, which means that they also have a soul. Pike says FCG is also already under the watchful eye of a god, and FCG looks down and sees the Changebringer symbol on their chest, which is really cool. The party is worried about what kind of stuff they will be able to go with them spiritually, their weapons and clothes, but Orym doesn't really believe his sword will be able to come to him, as it does not come with him, as it is not magically attuned to him. So after Vex gets back with the material cost for the spell, she then leaves again and returns with a +1 short sword for Orym. Pike at this point starts the ritual, and the party feels as though they're being pulled from their bodies and can't move. Matt describes this as sleep paralysis. Luckily for myself, I've never had this, so I can't relate. It sounds terrible though. They're pulled into darkness and they can't see each other for a bit. The party can see themselves as an astral projection of sorts, all taking the shape of their bodies and are mostly well defined. You can tell who's who. However, FCG is less defined, as the soul is merely within FCG's body and not totally one with it. So it kind of takes the vague shape of FCG's soul, or FCG's body, but is less, constrained by it. They look down and see a cracked stone floor, and a fog of war surrounding them about 60 feet around, that moves with them, which, interesting, very sketch. They seem to be in some sort of dream world. The party talk about how they have to find Laudna, or how to find Laudna. FCG wants to cast Locate Creature, but the party thinks it's a waste of a spell slot, so they begin to move forward. As they move forward, they see that they are moving through some sort of stone petrified forest, and they can hear whispers. Eventually, they come across a stone cabin with a light inside. Chetney turns invisible and sneaks up to it. As he moves forward, he can hear more whispers getting louder and louder. Inside, he sees a fire moving about, holding a bird skull and a rat, the creation of Pate. Inside the fire is a purple spot. The whispers at this point get really loud, and they start yelling, "There she is! Get the witch!" The fire then flees, and fire is set to the cabin. And at this point, literal cloak creatures emerge. It's time to fight. During the fight, I'm just going to be very vague about this fight. No one goes down, luckily, but some of them get their max HP reduced by a little bit. Ashton uses up 2 of their rages, as the cloaked creatures can go underground and hide, and Ashton wasn't able to hit anything for a turn. During the fight, the cabin also gets set on a lot more fire. The fire begins to rage within the cabin, and the party get rid of the creatures one by one and are eventually able to focus on the burning cabin. They want to protect it and whatever's inside to see if they can use it to chase down Laudna or help bring her back. Fern casts Tidal Wave, which looks like blue water fire, and puts it out. Blue water fire sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't watched it yet and I should, sounds like a visual thing you would see in like Demon Slayer, because I know like they animated that really well. So that, to me, that was the visual I got. I don't know, never seen the show, I've only seen clips. So correct me if I'm wrong if that sounds like something that would be in that. The party look the cabin over and find a piece of the floor is rotted and leads to a tunnel. Orym wants to rest, as he kind of spent a lot of his stuff during that combat to protect the others and to do more attacks. Imogen and Ashton disagree. This isn't really a safe place, and the longer they wait to go after Laudna, the worse it could get for her. They heal up a bit and go down the tunnel. Chetney in front, and Ashton casts Pass Without a Trace. Easily one of the most, in my opinion, one of the most broken spells, because it's cracked. Plus 10 is insane. Plus 10 to a group is even more insane. So that spell to me is cracked. I've always loved it. So yeah, love seeing it, and I love seeing a barbarian of all people cast it. but it makes sense. If you really think about it, it makes so much sense that a barbarian who's not very good at sneaking, who is also regularly doing breaking and enterings, would need something like this. So I love seeing it on him. Or, sorry, them. Everyone gets insane stealth rolls from this. Well, mostly. As Laura went to the washroom during this, Sam rolled for her, and Sam rolled kind of high. But they decide to wait for her to come back before moving on. And when she comes back, she's kind of mad because she wants to roll for herself. So she re-rolls and rolls a 1. Luckily, this is a group check, so because most of them passed, they all pass. And 1 plus 10 is still 11, which isn't terrible. So there's that. The tunnel spirals and corkscrews, and they seem to be pulled toward the wall no matter how they, sort of move. There seems to be weird gravity within this tunnel. Chetney sees a green light ahead. Chetney sees the end of the tunnel and walks to the exit and sees the sky is facing him. It is purplish. He then goes through it a bit more, and gravity changes on him. He now sees dead branches, what seem to be thousands of dead branches, and sees a crumbled wall, rooftops, and a city. Green mist. There's also a green mist that lights the city from below, and that's where Matt ends the episode. So obviously, this is Whitestone, which during the whole Briarwood reign. So very excited for next week. And this week gave me a few kind of messed up visuals. Like, while I was watching, I was like, there's so many things that could go wrong here. One, somehow when they pull Delilah away from Laudna, it'll just kill her because she's been dead for years and the only thing holding on to her is Delilah. So there's that to always think about. But another one was, if Percy finds out they're trying to do this resurrection thing within the city, he might go all berserk mode and kind of put the mask on and wait. And as they kind of all come to and Laudna is resurrected, he just shoots the shit out of her because he's like, no, I told you no. I told you I didn't want this happening in my city. So sorry I had to put that out into the universe. Hopefully that doesn't happen. So yeah. Anyway, that was episode 36 of Campaign 3. I think they're coming up on a year of Campaign 3 now, which is always cool. So yeah, a year of me doing these videos is coming up, and it's been great. It's been amazing, and I can't wait to do more. Years and years more into the future. So thank you all for watching, and have a good one. And if you're Canadian like I am, have a happy Thanksgiving. And because half my family is also American, in a month, I'll say happy Thanksgiving to you Americans out there too. Until then, happy Thanksgiving, you Canadians. See you later. Peace.